There's a quote that I love that says that the way that you love yourself is how you teach others to love you as well. Hi guys, Soul Harmony is here. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about how your relationship with yourself will affect every single relationship that you come across in your life. Whether it's romantically, whether it's with friends, whoever it's with, your relationship with yourself will affect it. And this is just one of the many reasons why they say that your relationship with yourself is the most important relationship that you have. That's not just some silly saying, it really is true. I also wanted to let you guys know that for the rest of quarantine, there will be a video coming out every single day. So if you want to stay tuned, there's going to be so many great topics that you can explore with me. And I think now is such a great time for self-betterment and just learning about things and learning about your psyche and learning about how these deeper aspects of life will affect you on a day-to-day basis, because you're going to be leveled up by the time we get out of quarantine. So to get started, I want you guys to look back for a second at your relationship history and really think about if you see a pattern in it, whether it be friendships or relationships. I would have friendships since I was little, and then relationships as I got older with the same type of narcissistic person who treated me exactly the same way. And this was coming from myself. So let me know how, and think about the type of person or the way that a lot of people who you've been in relationships with have treated you in the past. And then think about that throughout this video, how it connects to yourself and the way that you treat yourself as I teach you how they do connect to yourself. So the first way that your relationship with yourself affects your relationship with everybody else works kind of like the law of attraction, if you're familiar with that. What you expect from the world, what you believe will happen is what will happen. That's what will manifest, because that's the vibration that you are attracting. So if you have all these beliefs about yourself and you treat yourself in a certain way, then you expect everybody else you come across to see those things in you too, see you exactly how you see yourself, and treat you that exact same way as well. This is the exact reason why. Sorry, there's like a dad yelling at his kid over there. Anyways, this is the exact reason why if you treat yourself a certain way, the person you get into a relationship with will most likely treat you that way as well, or your friends will most likely treat you that way as well. There's a quote that I love that says that the way that you love yourself is how you teach others to love you as well. And it's very true. You set the standard for how you will be treated. You set the standard for what you're worth. And you are worth so much. You are worth everything. But you have to be able to see that in order for others to see that as well. Especially if they're still seeing things in terms of otherness, as in we're not all one, and you're here and I'm there, and this person's better than this person. Of course, if they have surpassed that way of thinking, then this wouldn't apply to them. But for the most part, most people are going to treat you the way that you teach them how to treat you. But in order for you to teach them how to treat you properly and well, you need to know how you should be treated yourself. So you need to work on your relationship with yourself. If you have a poor self-esteem and you come into a relationship, most likely there are two things that are going to be happening. One, you will self-sabotage any good relationship you get into because you don't think you're worth it. You don't think you're worthy of that. So you start to test it, and sooner or later it breaks. You might also find yourself in situations where you're not self-identified as something that you love in the first place, so you put your happiness on that other person, whether it be a friend or a romance. Again, you look for other people to define you, and that's not how a relationship works. It's 100 and 100% coming together, not 48-52 coming together, or any other type of way you could break down 100%. 100 coming together. That's the best type of relationship. If it's not that, that's how toxic relationships form, because you might find yourself saying stuff like, if only blank did this, then I would be happy. If only she did this, then I would be happy. If he did this, then I would be happy. But your happiness is only reliant on yourself. And that's the bottom line. On the flip side, if you find that you've worked through so much and you love yourself to no extent, you recognize yourself for being the amazing divine creature that you are, then you will not accept a love any less than that from anybody else. And a lot of times for most people, they find this after going through many relationships that were not of this sort, and they found their worth through experiences. If you still have these shadow parts and insecurities and shames that you hold about yourself within yourself, you also won't be able to express your full self in a relationship. And that is pretty sad. You have a full self for a reason, and your full self is so beautiful. So if you're hiding parts of yourself from somebody else, they're not getting the full you. But even more importantly than the other person not getting the full spectrum of who you are and all you have to offer, you know in your heart that they only know a limited part of who you are. They don't know your full self, and they don't love you for your full self. So that might make you feel even more insecure. You might overthink to yourself or try to continue hiding these parts of yourself because you don't know if they'll love you or not. And that's not full unconditional love. So this kind of creates a dissonance in your mind. They love me, but do they love me? And that's not the best relationship for you. If you find yourself doing this in relationships, you're most likely doing this for yourself too. There are parts of yourself that you haven't accepted yet, and these are the shadow insecurities and shameful parts of yourself that I mentioned earlier that you really need to face and understand and give light to and recognize. And if you want, I can do a whole video on this because it's so important, and it's not an easy process, but shining light on the darkest parts of yourself will turn your world completely around for the better. Additionally, the more of these shadow parts of yourself that you work through, the less you will have the ability to be hurt by others, because you can't really take things personally when you don't have things to take personally. If you work through all the darkest parts of yourself, things don't offend you as much. So you won't be scared of getting rejected per se, or being turned down, or being left, or being neglected, or whatever it may be, because you won't have those dark parts of yourself to turn around to and blame and think, oh, if only I didn't have this part of myself, because you've learned to love those parts of yourself, and you've worked through those parts of yourself, and you know how amazing you are. So when something like that happens, like a rejection or a neglect, or you get left, it's not as hurtful because you're not putting the blame on yourself. You recognize that it is something that the other person is dealing with that's making that happen, and not yourself. It might be, for example, it might be a self-sabotaging thing on their part. Maybe you treat them too well, or treat them better than they think that they should be treated subconsciously. So you recognize that these things aren't personal, and it makes things so much easier, and it makes you less fearful when you're coming into a relationship as well. Because a lot of us don't give our all in fear of being rejected, or in fear of not getting that back. So really, when you fix these things about yourself, you're able to live a much more full life. I don't know if you guys have ever noticed, but day to day you might wake up feeling differently about yourself. You might be very insecure and unhappy with yourself one day, and then maybe the next week you feel great, you feel amazing. And you can tell that you treat people very differently on these 2 days because you feel so different inside. So when you've learned to work through these insecurities and shadow parts of yourself for good, permanently, and so they're not just like fluctuating surface emotions, then you can feel that good and treat people that great day to day. Not only are you treating other people that great, but you're treating yourself that great too, because you believe that you're worth that. So if you guys have any questions on how to level up your relationship with yourself, leave a comment down below, and I'm so happy to make a video on that for another one of these quarantine days. You can think of these relationships as frequencies and vibrations. It's so much like the law of attraction. It's kind of like the way that you're vibrating in yourself is what you will attract in another person and in relationships. And your whole life is kind of on that same vibration that you're on with yourself, for yourself. So that's why it's so important to raise your vibration and learn how to love yourself in every aspect of yourself. So if you guys have any questions on how to raise your vibration, how to give yourself unconditional self-love, and how to do all these things for yourself, work through your shadow aspects, then really just let me know. Comment down below, and I'll be so glad to make a video on this during quarantine. I probably will, because I have nothing else to do and except do these kinds of really the most important things. And I will have a video up every single day from now on until quarantine ends, and then I'll continue after that as well. So thank you so much, guys. I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll see you tomorrow.